Hello, Tony here from Lightwave Digital. In today's tutorial we're going to be having a look at how to model this poison bottle for the Halloween theme. So what I'll do is I'll go through how I modelled it, and then I'll bring up the scene and go through how I set up the scene, and I'll also provide this scene and bottle for free for you. So to start with, what we'll do is in Lightwave Modeler we'll go to the create tool and then choose disk, hold down control, and then your top view, what we're going to do is we're going to pull out an actual circle, and then in the actual back or right view let's just pull it up. Now why it's got these orange handles, let's press N on your keyboard, which will bring up the numerical. We're going to reduce the sides down to 6, so we've got this, and then we're going to make the actual scale. So let's say, because currently it's like 2 meters high, so it's a giant bottle, but we want to make it to scale or around the size of the scale we want. So I'm going to say with this that, let's say we're going to do 100 to start with. Let's do 100 mil in both the X and the Z, like so, and then we'll say it's about, so we're looking at, yeah, I mean 10 centimeters is quite big still, but let's for the time being let's just make the rough size and we can change it, and then we'll say 150 mil for the height, and then let's just have a look at it. So this is roughly what we've got, and it's floating in the air because it's not on the actual grid. So here where it says minus, and then you got this in the X, and you've got the 2 meters. Let's just put 0 in both of them. So we've kind of got it, and then what I'm doing, I'm clicking on the actual back interface and pressing A. So we've got it here, look, in the middle of our actual grid. So let's imagine this is the main kind of shape for the bottle, and then we can have, this is where we can maybe have a think about exactly what the size is. So you could go on the internet like I should have and had a look at what size you actually want to make this. So to rough scale, I'm just going to stick with what I've got, even though I know it's a bit bigger than me, because poison bottles usually aren't massive. I mean, what you could do is you could chop this in half. So well, let's just do that like so, and then let's reduce this to about there, probably. Let's reduce it down to, wait, let's say 100. Why not? So there's our bottle, main bottle. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to shut the actual numerical and press space bar. Now next stage is I want to make all these edges not so sharp. So we'll just use, under multiply, we'll go to rounder, press numerical, and then you get this. So currently for the rounder we've got this set of 6 polygons at a 10 mil. So let's reduce this down. Let's reduce it down to say 5. So we've got like a nice rounded edge. You can make it, if you want, make it wider, smaller. So at this stage, this is where you can kind of experiment with what you kind of want and stuff. So let's just stick with 5. And for the mesh density, I've gone for high, so it's nicer at these corners here. So simple as that. And then we press spacebar. So at the bottom, let's go and pick polygons here, look, and choose this top polygon. Then we're going to go to the bevel tool, which is under multiply, and then we're just going to simply bring it up and in the side view. So you get something like this. Now if you bring up the numerical, you can see I brought it in 22 mil and the inset is 12 mil. So you can do it numerically if it helps, like this. And then once we've done that, what I want is I want some more polygons adding. So I'm going to use the adding edge tool to add more edges along each, in between of each side. So to do that, go to detail, edge, and then when you go over, look, like this, if you right mouse click, it'll add an edge along that middle of the seam of that polygon. So all I want you to do is go round and do that to each side So you've got this, like so. Then press spacebar. So now we've got this. What we'll do as well is these two polys here and the opposite polys, we're going to bring in. So I'm making a groove that goes inward. So to do that, we're going to go to multiply, multi-shift, which is another source of bevel tool. Make sure group polygons on, otherwise it will do them individually. And then what we're going to do is we play with the shift and the actual inset. So we're going to inset it, say 4 mil, and then the shift amount, let's bring it in, say -2 currently. Let's just bring it in one more, maybe -3. So you're getting this nice little indent. And again, it could be more, or it's completely up to you. But that's where we're going to put our text with poison in. So we can shut this down, space bar, and then / to drop the selection. So now what we need to do, we just need to make the actual top of the bottle. Now, you could simply grab this polygon and pull it up, but I just want to try and show you a few tools, more tools and stuff. Before we do the top, let's just have a look at the bottom. So with the bottom, I'm just going to select the polygon, like so, making sure I'm on polygons. And let's just bevel it in. So in the top view, I'm holding control and I'm beveling it in. And then after you've beveled it in so far, holding control still, switch to the right mouse and you can make another bevel. And let's just make a couple of bevels. Now you can play around with this and you can push these in and out and you can make a more like ornate bottom if you want. But I'm just going to leave it like this. Why this polygon's selected, under multiply, go to the more under subdivision and just click on make point. And then you can drop the selection and you've got that nicer bottom there like that. So this is where we're at so far. Next, let's make this the neck bit. So I'm going to do it slightly different maybe, rather than just pull it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the disc tool. I'm going to hold in the same layer. So under layers, look, I've only got this one layer, which I'll name in a bit. I'm just going to use the same layer. I'm going to hold control and I'm going to draw out the rough size of what I want the actual size of the neck to be. I'm going to bring up numerical. Now, when I actually added these extra seams, I'm actually adding extra points. So originally there were 6 and I've added an edge all the way around for each polygon. So now I've got 12. So I'm going to make it the same of 12 like so. So what we've got is this. And then let's pull it up in the side. So this is you deciding how long do I want this neck to be. And you can change it after as well. And you've got the numerical to decide as well. So again, I'm looking at it thinking, well, how long do I want it to be? Do I want it to be smaller? Because currently it's 28. So let's make it 20 mil. So here, look at the radius. I'm making it 20 mil. So let's say I want that. Let's just shut this down, press space bar. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this object to where I want the neck to be. Now, they're on the same layer. So if I use the move tool, they're going to move together. So all I need to do is either choose any of the elements here, look, points, edges or polygons. Then if you right mouse click and lasso select round them, once I've not got that bottom selected. So lasso gives you this lasso. And then what you can do is click M on your T on your keyboard, sorry. And let's just move it. And then let's move it. And let's move it so it's roughly, it's in the center of where we're going to have the neck, like so. So I've got my middle mouse button set up so it zooms in and out. So if you're wondering how I'm zooming in and out. So we've kind of got it here, look, like so. And if you want, you could simply rotate it so you've got the edges in the similar edges as these. But let me show you why I've done it this way. So next what I'm going to do, making sure I'm on polygons, is I'm going to select this polygon, and then the polygon for the main bottle. Now, these are on the same layer. To use this tool, they need to be on the same layer. Then I'm going to go to multiply and click on spleen bridge. And what this does, it makes this bridge joining them together. And you see it's twisted. That's because the actual polys aren't lined up with the bottom poly. So if I bring up numerical, you can add more divisions. So let's add 2. You can reduce the twist or line the twist up. And there's a second twist as well. like so. But it's up to you if you want to change that. But I'm just going to say I'm happy with that. Drop it, and then drop the selection. And then you've got this, like so, as you can see. So, because it's twisted, it's not quite right. So, what I would do, rather than try and do it manually, is I would go back to originally where I had this, the neck bit here. Look, let's select it again. And then what you can do is try and line it up with the original edges, because you can see. So if I rotate it here, look, you can see that. So what I'm doing here, look, is I'm lining these edges up here with roughly where the other edges are, if you get what I mean. So then once I do that, is if I go here, select these, like so. I mean, the original bottle I did the actual top a bit bigger, so you're not seeing so much of this. So again, you can see it's a lot straighter now, and that's using the same thing. But you can also play around with the twist. You can even have a twist effect on it if you want. But let's say I'm happy with that. So drop the selection, and so what we've got now is we've got this bottle. So this is a lot longer than the original one. So again, you can manipulate it. So let's say points this time. Right mouse click, select the actual points. I'm going to click T on my keyboard. I'm holding control to stop the points going right or left, and I'm just going to drag it down and then decide how much of the top I want on this. But you can make it really long as you want as well. So there's the kind of main shape of the bowl. Next thing, let's just select this top poly. So I'm using spacebar to skip through all the different elements. I'm then going to choose this top polygon and press delete on my keyboard so it's open. And then what I'm going to do is give the whole object some thickness. So under multiply, thickness, what you're going to do is on your top view, you're going to drag to the left, and you'll notice it coming in. So if I bring up numerical, it's showing you it's coming in, look, 5.7 mil with 2 segments, and the segments are these bits here, look. So again, at this stage, you can decide how thick this bottle is, but I think 5 mil is quite nice, and then leave the 2 segments. So we'll say that's okay, which is cool. And so now the bottle's gone inside. Let's look at the actual top now. So what I want to do is I want to add a row of edges here to make more polygons, so I can have a bit of a lip to the top. So detail, edges, come over, right mouse click, hold your right mouse click down and drag up to decide how thick that lip's going to be. Let's say there, space bar. Now on the polygons, I'm going to select a couple of polys running the same way, around the same axis, and then go to select loop, so I've selected all the top. So now I want to make the lip, so let's just zoom in a bit. So again, let's go to multiply. We'll use multi-shift, press N on your keyboard. So what we're doing is we're looking at bringing the actual inset in and the actual shift amount out. So at this stage, what you can do is you can obviously pull it in and out. Let's bring out a little bit. So 2 mil and 1 mil. And then down here it says insert a shift. So I'm going to click that to say I want a new row. And let's say I bring it out. Sorry, not bring it in. Let's just say for this one, I'll bring it out again. So you're getting this look. And you can play around with the settings like this. I mean, let's say we want just 3 so it comes in. It's up to you. You can make it thinner if you want, so you can have it more like that. And then, again, you can jump back to the original one. So you see this handle here, look. I'm moving it back to the original one, and then you can manipulate the original one as well if you want. So you can come out with stuff like this. So you can actually manipulate both. Or even you can have 5, 6, whatever, as many kind of, as many inserts as you want. So let's say I was happy with that. So I'm going to drop the tool, press space bar and /. So now what I've got is I've got this lip, like so. So next part is literally just adding the text. So with the text, so to do that, we're just going to use the logo option. So it's really simple. You can just write. You just literally write in the word poison, how thick you want the extrude to be. I'm just going to put 100 mil, and then choose your actual font. So I'm just going to use a copper plate Gothic bold we'll use, but you can go, I mean, I get loads of fonts from 1001 free fonts, so if you pop on there you can get horror fonts and loads of other ones that are free as well. So let's add that, which is obviously really big. I'm just going to do that a minute. Because I need to put it on its own layer, so let's do that again. Okay, so next, modify, size it right down, and what we're doing is we're going to rotate it, so Y on your keyboard for rotate or under modify, and then we're moving it into position, and we're just going to size it and place it at this bottom down here in the bottom look, because basically I'll need a bit of room at the top so I can add a little skull. So let's just size up a little bit and move it to place. Okay, and then in this view, top view, we'll zoom in and we'll add it so it's actually running along that line there, in line with that. It's, if you watch it, there's a horizontal line here, that's where the indent is. So you could switch to the points, lasso it, and you don't have to be going so far into your bottle. You can just bring it in a little bit more if you want, that's up to you. But what we've got is the actual poison inside the bottle like so. So all we need now is to go on the opposite side. So with the actual poison selected, put the bottle in the background, go to multiply, mirror, N on your keyboard for numerical. We're going through the Z, so switch it to the Z. It looks at the background layer and it places it on it. Look, so really good. So we'll drop that. It's actually facing the wrong way. So with the points, you can lasso select round them, and you just need to quickly rotate it all the way round to fit in, and making sure it's kind of brought in as well. Maybe bring it in so it's in the right kind of place and you're happy with it and stuff. And you can use the opposite one to make sure you're in line if you want as well. But in general, what you should have is this. So, cool. Next bit. Let's go and add the schools. So for the schools, I've got to use the free preset from Turbo Squid. So what I'll do is I'll give you the link to the school. Well, it's actually a whole skeleton. So it's an OBJ. So if I bring it in, here you go. It's pretty cool. I did think about using the whole thing. You could even put it in your bottle, inside your bottle if you wish. It would be quite cool. But I just want the actual skull, part of the skull here, look. So all I'm doing is, with the polygons, is I'm just selecting, because it's in a couple of bits. I think the teeth are separately. I'm literally selecting a load of polys here. Then I'm going to go to selections, click connected, and it selects everything to do with it. Now, as you can see, I've missed a few teeth, so if you hold shift and lasso select the ones you've missed, you can get them all. And then it's literally Control C on your keyboard, into your main document, Control V. Let's put the others objects in the background, and you can see it's here. Let's just use the move tool, so T on your keyboard, bring it down. So what we need is we need it to shrink it down a bit, so modify, let's shrink it down, and I'm going to make it to a size that I want the stopper to be on top for the time being. So I'm thinking, how big or where would it be? Let's say that. Okay, so once I've done that, so that's what I'm going to use for the stopper on top. Let's just jump to it and Control C and Control V into a blank layer, so I've got a copy of it. Put everything else in the background by clicking the little B at the top, and then what I'm going to do is move it down. So I want to place it in this gap here at the top. So let's shrink it down to a size that it will actually fit there, slightly more, like so. Move it forward with the T with the move, and I want it so it's sticking out so far. Let's have a look. Yeah, so something like that. But I don't really want the back bit, so what we'll do is we'll get rid of it. So in a new layer, put this skull in the background. You're going to go to the create tab, use a box, and we're just going to draw a box around the bit we don't really want. So like this. So we're going to use what's called a boolean. So I'm going to cut everything inside that box away because I don't want it. So to do that, you select the actual skull and put the box in the background. So the background's now is the negative part of the actual boolean. So you go to construct, boolean, make sure it's on subtract, so it's subtracting the negative from the positive, and then you're left with the actual front. We don't want the box now, so you can select it and delete it. And then let's have a look where this is by just having a look coming in, and we'll just move it in a little bit more. And basically there's our skull sticking out like so. And let's put one on the other side like we did before. Let's put the bottle in the background, skull in the foreground, and we're just going to go to multiply, mirror, N on your keyboard. Don't need to touch anything, automatically does it. There, you can zoom in, check. Do you want to move it anywhere else? Do we want to? No, looks all right to me. So what we've got is this. The last thing is the stopper. Now with the stopper, all I've done is kept the skull the same, and in a blank layer, where is it? Here, I'm just using the disc tool, and I'm just putting a disc crudely through it because that's all I really need. So again, bring a disc up. It's default to the last disc. I mean, you can add more segments. Let's just make it maybe 18, and let's make sure it's round. Both sides of 39. Let's bring it down to however far I feel I want it to go. In fact, we'll add a segment in the center as well. So this is going to like chop it in half a little bit. So let's say we want that. So now all we need to do is shape it a little bit. So all I'm going to do is, let's select the top poly. We'll use multiply size. We'll go down and say local. So it just means it's going to size it in position. Let's just bring it in a bit like this. Cool. And then we'll do the same to the bottom. Again, size. So you get this kind of shape. And in fact, with the bottom selected, we can just go and bevel it a little bit if you want a few times. So let's bevel it again. So you're getting like a bullet kind of effect at the bottom. So you're kind of getting this. So let's have a look in what it kind of looks like based on the rest. We can size it in a little bit. So again, I'm lassoing the center bits. Let's just size it in. Like so. Bottom, size it in, move it up a little bit. So while I'm sizing it, you notice it's on local, so you can choose whichever one of these you want, really. Just size keeps it in the right position, and then you can move it to roughly where you want the stopper to be here. But basically, you're kind of getting this. So at this stage, the only thing I really did is I just added, on a new layer, I just added a shape for the actual liquid inside, the poison. So again, all I did is I used the disc tool, drew it out, under numerical I put it back to 6, the same as what it was when I first did the actual original shape, like so. Let's pull it down. You can decide how full or not full this is going to be. So let's say that. Again, quickly round using the default settings from before for the rounder. In fact, let me just... Okay, here we go. So again, I'm not changing anything. These are the same settings I used for the original bowl. And then that's it. That's inside now. I'll give it a surface name. And then when I take everything through to layout, I can start surfaces in them and setting the lights up and stuff. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so here's the scene. So if I turn on VPR, so let me talk you through the scene. So, got my ground plane. So once the ground plane's down and it's got a surface, on the surface editor, what I did is, if you go to the ground, I've simply add a slight roughness, so it's 50% specular and just over 21% roughness, just so it's not a perfect reflection. It's got a bit of roughness in there. I then went to shading models and switched it to shadow catcher, so it removes the actual ground surface and just catches the shadows and reflections like so. So that's what I did with that. With the background, it's a polygon. Now what I did is I added the actual, if I just bring this out a bit, so for the background skull, what I've done is I've literally gone into the actual node editor and I've plugged in, I mean, if I unplug, because I don't necessarily need the actual this in, look, it makes no difference. I don't know why I've plugged it in. All I wanted to do is plug the colour into luminosity colour, the luma into luminosity, and then the actual alpha into transparency. And this is how I get this effect. So it's literally, there's no texture projected, although there shouldn't have been. It's literally projecting it as a light source. So it's actually been used to light the bottle slightly as well. And with the transparency, it's not going to show up anything anyway. But that's all I've done. I've literally just done that. I've not actually plugged it into the colour. However, this actual image here, I got off of Picabay, so I put the actual link there. It's just free off Picabay that I've used, and like I said, I've put it on that polygon, so it's dead straightforward to get as well. I've also used the HDMI, and the HDMI is from HDMI Haven, I think it's called. Again, what I've done is, if I go to the lights, there's an environment light which I've added, which is here. So with the environment light, I've just literally, it's a workshop, I'm not even sure why. I had it spare on my computer, so I just thought I'd just use this one, it'll be fine. And it has been fine, it's actually worked quite nice. So again, I've just used this, but I'll put a link to this as well. And I've actually quadrupled, well not quadrupled, sorry, nearly tripled the actual sensitive. So 100 will be this, which still looks nice, but I wanted it stronger. I wanted the light source stronger, so I've got 150. But you can play with this. So the other lights is the distant light, which I've got a 10% angle. So from, if you're coming from like 2015 and you had the old dome light or whatever it was, it kind of, by adding an angle, it's giving you that a feathered effect around the side. And again, I've only got a 3% kind of free looks on that. I have got a backlight which is literally in line with the skull line at 50%. It's got a slight green tint to it. And then what I did is I added a linear light inside the bottle, just to get this little line of glow inside it. Now, I did think, shall I just increase this and make it like really silly, or do you know what I mean? Increase it. So if you want to get the liquid to show up better, you can do that. You can even tell it to show the actual light, so if you want, but I wouldn't really. Don't really need to do that. I mean, I'm happy around 100. Again, you've got the size and the length of the actual linear light in there as well. So again, I'm going to give you this scene, so don't worry about it. So going back to the surfaces. Now with the surfaces, all I've done is use what I've got in the presets. So in presets, if I go to say the bottle texture, and if you hold shift and click on anywhere when the VPR's on, it jumps to that actual texture. So with the presets, I've literally gone to what did I use? I used glass, and I've used wine bottle, and when I've added it, here's the actual what it looks like. Now all I've done with wine bottle, because this one has got a high turbulence, but I've gone and reduced it right down to 10%, the bump 1%, and the frequency to 2. The reason I've done that is because before, before on the render, the bump was way too high. It was really, really bumpy. But I wanted it to have a bump because I wanted it to look, the bottle to look slightly older. So that's why I've kind of done that. And again, then I've copied and pasted the actual bottle texture into the text, and both all three of the actual skulls, including the top, and then I've tweaked them slightly. So I've gone in and I've actually had a gradient on this as well. Just this is the liquid inside, so giving it a bit of an orange to green tint. But for each one, again, the skull itself, it's got the same texture. I might have played around with the settings, but only slightly because I need them to match what they're kind of looking like. But yeah, I mean, I think it's come out all right. I mean, it was more about the modelling, because there's just not enough modelling tutorials out there. And I'm always liking to learn about modelling, and I just think it was quite a nice, cool little tutorial. But like I said, have a look at the scene and have a go at the actual modelling the bottle, but experiment. I mean, originally in this bit here it said poison. I was going to make the sides of the bottle bigger so I could have different parts of the body parts sticking out instead of it saying poison. But I thought, well, I'll add poison just so I can show the text and logo tool, because it's dead simple. So that's it. Hopefully you've enjoyed the tutorial. Have a go at the modelling tutorial and check out the scene. Happy Halloween. Thanks for listening.